I don't see that lot. There we go, Michael. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the A.E.B.G Being Green podcast, broadcasted to you live from beautiful, amazing, picturesque Crystal Lake Studios in Westchester County, New York. My name's Keith Farrell. I am joined, as always, by my colleague and co-host, the number one Jets fan in the state of Texas, none other than Michael Lagaris, everybody.
Hey, everyone. What's up?
Mike, what's going on? You know, right in that right corner, we have our PTI set up here. You know him, you love him, the number one high school football coach in the nation today, Sammy O'Hare. Sammy, welcome to the show.
Jet Nation, what's going on, everybody?
What's up, boys? Happy to be back. Happy to have Mike back on the show. He was in Turks and Caicos last week, getting his vacation on, having fun with the wifey, but he was still locked in. Still locked in on Jets, okay? Messaging me about Dalvin Cook the whole time, all right? So I'm happy to say that Dalvin Cook is now officially a New York Jet, Michael, and we're going to get to Dalvin. We're going to get the Jets Panthers, the beatdown we handed those fools. We'll talk about the O-line issues we've had. Want to mention something about the Broncos real quick, which I found pretty interesting from the game. Jets Buccaneers we'll get into. But, guys, the main event this week, the number one topic with the Jets this week, aside from the O-line play, is Dalvin Cook. Is signing up Dalvin Cook. Why? A lot of talk on this show especially. We've done 3 or 4 shows where we talk a lot about him, suggested we do need a good veteran running back just in case Hall doesn't come back 100%, et cetera, et cetera. Mike, we haven't had a chance to really talk to you about this yet. Dalvin officially signing with the squad. As a Jet fan, I know you're super excited, but what tangibly, as a football fan, do you think he's going to bring to the team that's going to help us get even further this year than if we just stuck with the room we have right now?
Guys, I mean, there's no question he's better than the status quo as far as a Michael Carter, a Bam Knight, right? He is that now 1-2 punch with Breece Hall. I think the best value that Cook brings really is the Jets being able to bring Breece Hall back at his own speed. So we know last year the Jets were most effective when Breece Hall was healthy, when Elijah Vera-Tucker and that offensive line was pretty much in sync, and we were able to manage the offense through the run game and play good defense. Well, I think they want to expound on that, build on that. They can do that now, and they don't have to force Breece Hall down his throat. They can lean on and leverage Cook because he is a 1,000-yard rusher. He is a Pro Bowl running back. We know he's not as good as he was a couple of years ago, but he's still better than anything the Jets have outside of Breece Hall. So I think that is the biggest value add. And look, anytime you add a Pro Bowl player, a playmaker, that is a positive. So I'm really excited. Also, we didn't talk about if Aaron Rodgers goes down and Zach Wilson is the quarterback, now Hackett can get very creative with having 2 running backs and running a bunch of different packages back there, screwing up the defense, not really knowing which one guy is going to go and who other is a decoy. So, look, I think the Jets are all in. They're going for it. And now we have the best running attack, in my opinion, in the National Football League.
Sammy, do you think, I know obviously Dalvin Cook's a tremendous player, but do you think one of the reasons, besides the obvious, which is we're all in this year, Sammy, one of the reasons they made a move for such a big-time running back at $8.6 million, which is nowadays, that's pretty decent starter-level money. You think they did that, Sammy, because just like we mentioned on the show, the Jets know all of the data when it comes to ACL tears and the running backs the next year after. Most running backs are not really that successful. Usually it takes a couple of years if they ever get back to what they were, which is hard for Jet fans to hear. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. But, Sam, do you think that factor played into this, which is, all right, like Mike said, say Hall isn't 100% this year and he's just 80%. Dalvin Cook for 2023 can do the heavy lifting, and we can take our time with Hall now. You think that played into the decision, Sammy?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so, right? You hope Dalvin Cook is 100%, but most likely he's getting 50, right? Breece Hall, rather, coming off that injury. Dalvin Cook, you've added this 28-year-old. I know he's run the ball quite a bit with over 230 carries since he's come into the league, but that guy's still got a lot to give. And I wouldn't be surprised if, Mike mentioned it before, if Zach Wilson's in, they get creative with this packaging. Forget that. Do it with Aaron Rodgers in there. You can put Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall in the backfield. You've got a backfield where both those guys can run downfield and both those guys can catch the ball in space, right? Yeah. So you can take both those guys, put them in the backfield, and just put one out at wide receiver, right? And they can play that position totally fine. We've seen Dalvin Cook do it for years. And I don't think once I think the coaching staff, once they got past Breece Hall, I don't think they felt confident in any other guy we had, to be honest. I don't think that Izzy's too young. I don't think Carter ever showed them that he can really carry that number 2 load. And in our successful NFL teams, all those teams have 2 guys that can really carry that load downhill.
Looks like Mr. Bonzi here says, as long as we keep Michael Carter over Bam, I won't.
All right, now let's get into that next topic.
I don't know about that.
Now I'm going to, Bonesy, pause that for 1 second because we're going to talk about that in a sec with your boy Michael Carter. I just want to get to a few points with Cook before I forget. And Mike is right. Insofar as, I think it has a lot to do, I don't know if anyone watched the quarterback show with Kirk Cousins and that Viking offensive line just got him murdered last year. I think that might have had a little bit to do with the efficiency with Cook. But Mike, you said he's not the same as he was, but he's made the Pro Bowl 4 years in a row. So, I mean, 4 years ago, Cook to now, I'm not saying it's the same. I'm not even going to debate that, Mike. But there's not a lot. I mean, last year, Mike, he had an 81-yard TD run. He ran 24 miles an hour. So right. I'm not disagreeing with Mike because if you dig into the metrics when it comes to efficiency, it is a little down for Cook. But if you're the number 1 running back in the league and now your efficiency is down slightly, you're still pretty elite. So when it comes to what we're trying to do here with the Jets, I mean, this is someone, like I said, 4 Pro Bowls in a row, 1,000 yards, 4 years in a row. I think that's a tremendous add for the squadron. Like we said, 6,000 yards total. Hall's going to be what he's going to be this year. He might go back to being a beast. Adrian Peterson and Dalvin Cook, ironically, are 2 of the only guys off the top I can think of to have an ACL, come back the next year as a running back, and just ball out immediately again. Does not happen a lot, guys. I mean, there's links we can share with you guys, man. It's daunting, some of those numbers. So I love this move. And then it lends itself to this, which we just saw our boy say, Mr. Bonesy, which is Michael Carter. Now, Michael Carter, just a few days ago, had 4 carries, 19 yards, had a couple catches for 30 yards. And Jet fans are hyped. Jet fans are hyped. And I get it, man. It was nice to see him finally do something. But, guys, last year in the NFL, Bonesy, file this one away in your head. Of all the running backs that had more than 100 carries, he had the least yards per carry in the league, 3.5. He was last in the league. Last in the NFL. He wasn't much better the year before. So, and you look at the landscape right now. They have Cook, they have Hall. They're going to be on the team, guys. Abanikanda is going to be on the team. We know that. He's not going nowhere. The best running back in training camp has been Bam Knight. That's all you read. That's all we see. And then the offense Hackett's going to be running. We have a fullback. We have Nick Borden. So that's 5 backs right there. They're not keeping 6 backs.
No.
So that's why, Bonesy, I know you might be tight, but I think in this scenario, and it's not like Michael Carter's going to give you a lot in like pass protect. He's 5'9", he's $180. So I unfortunately, that's what I wanted to ask you two. That's my next topic here with the Dalvin Cook scenario. Obviously, Dalvin Cook coming in huge for the team, huge for the depth. And now Izzy Abanikanda looks great. I mean, he looks, and the thing is, Carter is a tremendous receiver, but he's not explosive. He's really slow.
That spin move, that spin move was so filthy. Carter ain't got that.
Yeah, Carter has hands. I wasn't talking to Mike. I was our other friend, Mike Milano, the most depressing Jet fan in the world. And I was saying there is a universe where Michael Carter's on a team as a third down back and he's effective. I'm not saying Michael Carter's bad or anything like that. Just as a rusher running the ball, he's horrible. He's the worst in the league. And that's
you got to reply here. He says, I get it, but he wasn't 100% last year. Bam had 6 good quarters of football last year. BS.
Bonesy, pause button. Last year, you can go look this up on PFF. Number 1 broke tackle rate in the NFL was Bam Knight. That's why he's on the team right now. You can say 6 quarters, you can say whatever you want. Michael Carter had an entire season of playing Bam. I would love to be at 6 quarters. He didn't. There's no debate really between Bam Knight and Michael Carter, aside from the fact that Michael Carter has good hands. You know, I don't know. And we'll see how it shakes out. He might be right. He might be on the squad. I just don't see that happening right now.
And, Keith, and this coaching staff and general management too has given me the impression that they're type of team, we've seen what we want to see and they move on pretty quickly. And I feel like with Carter, it's been 2 seasons. They've kind of seen what they got rid of Moore, they got rid of Mims. They've seen what they've seen, and now they're ready to move on, I think.
Look, I just think, guys, that Bam and Carter are fighting for that last roster spot. I think the coaching staff already knows the direction they're going to go. Look, they could be usurped by the general manager because they drafted Michael Carter. He does have some political sway, obviously, as a draft pick. But I think the team is going to pick who they believe is best for the Jets moving forward. At this point, personally, I probably would go with Bam Knight over Michael. I would say this game coming up, you and me, Keith, talked about this. This game coming up against Tampa Bay is going to be the most pro-like preseason game of any of the ones that we're going to be playing this year. So they'll probably have as many starters as they can on the offensive line. They'll probably have, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to play or not, but let's see what these guys do on Saturday. And then following up next week, we'll be coming out with our 53-man roster here next week. So you'll see how we put that.
Yeah, I got to mention, too, to be fair to Bonesy, if we're going to talk about Michael Carter's yards per carry, Bam Knight was like not that far ahead of him. But there's a lot. If you dig into those numbers, though, and you look at, and he just mentioned he only played good in 2 games. He played versus Buffalo. He had 70 yards and a touchdown. That's pretty good. It's a pretty good defense, I would say. And then to first man miss. Who's the yard player?
His rookie year. I mean, he did good his rookie year. He just took a step back that second year. We're gonna have to see something.
Mike, is Michael Carter going to grow 5 inches by next year? Is he going to put 40 pounds on that I didn't know? Like, what are we doing? When he came in the league, he was 5'9", $180, and slow. Right? At what point has Michael Carter been good that Bonesy's seen that I didn't see?
He's good at breaking tackles. And receiving, like you said.
Okay, so he's good at breaking tackles, but then the smoke clears and you look at the stats, and he doesn't move the ball forward because he's 180 pounds. He's not pushing a pile.
Guys, can we be fair? Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall are there. This dude ain't seeing the field anyway. If those guys are healthy, who cares? I hope Hall and Cook are the only ones that touch that football. And
speaking of that, I mean, actually, we'll get into the game real quick first, then we'll talk about this offensive line, which regardless if we do have MC back there or we don't, offensive line could be an issue for us, guys. We'll get into that in a moment. But let's talk about this game because we just dealt out a whooping on the Panthers. Guys, I know it's preseason, don't get me wrong. But guess what? If we got smashed 27-0, what would the headlines be? What would people be saying? That's what happens now if the Jets are kind of in a scenario where on paper we're good. We're all 27-0, who cares? It's like, no, man, we had some second stringers going up against their first string offensive line.
Yeah.
And we destroyed them. It was embarrassing. Mike we had Bennett call Mike, a Carolina Panther fan. He's like, his defensive line is ridiculous. If they play like this whole year, which, I know that the game was what it was. It's a preseason game, but 5 sacks. I mean, McDonald looked like I've been questioning the pick, Mike, and we've been going back and forth. Should they have done this? We have depth at that position. And then I watched Hard Knocks this week. I watched the game first, then I watched Hard Knocks. I got a little bit more of an understanding of this kid, and he seems like he's going to be something special also, Mike. Mike, what was your big takeaways from the game?
Oh, man. So, yes, Bennett, who was on this show a couple of times, he's a Carolina fan, lives down in North Carolina. He called me, Sammy. I told this to Keith already, and Jet fans, look, it is what it is. My boy played football, knows football, loves football like we do. And he basically said to me, Mike, that was our starting O-line, and your backup defensive line wreaked havoc. And if this is a predecessor of what we're about to see, your team can go all the way to the Super Bowl. Like, straight said that to me. Like, and this is like my boy. This isn't like this is a cat who knows football. Like, he's like, Mike, they could go to the Super Bowl. That gets me in my heart. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh my God, what did you say to me? He's like, because it's so chaotic. Even my boss, I was talking to him today. He's like, Mike, that defensive line is a problem, a real problem. Like, I don't know if anyone knows this. The Miami Dolphins just lost their left tackle. What do you think is going to happen when you have Jermaine Johnson and this freak McDonald fresh because JFM and Lawson just finished doing a couple of reps, and Tua is going to be putting up more gang signs in this season and when they play the Jets. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. And I would go venture to say the biggest takeaway to your question, Keith, was that Aaron Rodgers is not I know how good Aaron Rodgers is. I look at this Jets team, and our greatest value is not Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking like strictly from a game impact perspective. It's not Aaron Rodgers. It's not Sauce. It's not our linebackers or Dalvin Cook. It's this defensive line. This defensive line can take us to the chip. That was my takeaway from the game.
Oh, I love it. Will McDonald, Mike, he had a sack, 2 QB hits. Jermaine Johnson had half a sack, 2 QB hits. Quentin Jefferson had a sack, Mike. Bryce Huff, often forgot about when we're talking about all this defensive ends you just mentioned. We also have Bryce Huff. We also have Michael Clemens. I mean, they're loaded. Two seasons ago, we didn't have a guy on the team that could get near the quarterback, right? And now we're talking about defensive tackles like Quentin Jefferson getting sacks. Our Quentin Williams got 12 sacks last year. He's a D tackle. And now we have these guys coming off the edge, man. That game was interesting from the standpoint that it's not like the Jets did anything really exotic on defense. I understand that they're just naturally athletic, these young bucks, and they're just causing chaos on the line. They weren't blitzing, they weren't doing anything crazy. Only 6 attempts there for Bryce Young, but the defensive line looked great. Look, we know the whole game for the whole day, the Panthers had 165 yards of offense. And when you go look at the tape, you're trying to get a lot more than that done in the preseason game. Jets had about 333. Zach Wilson looked efficient. 14 for 20 for Zach and a touchdown, 13 points, went into halftime 13-0. So if you're a Jet fan, before the season started, one of the big notes we were all saying to one another was, how is this kid going to look in the preseason? Kind of a no-brainer, right? Because we know if, God forbid, anything happened to Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be leading the ship again. So if he went through the whole preseason, guys, and he was just an absolute pile of garbage, that would be depressing. That would be daunting. We'd be looking at Tim Boyle like, is he going to be the guy? Do we have to go trade for someone? Instead, so far with Zach, he's doing pretty good. I think he's 18 for 25 so far, 188 yards, no turnovers. He looks pretty competent out there, kind of just taking what the defense gives him. Now, in these preseason scenarios, you're not facing exotic blitz packages or things that are overly complicated. So it is what it is, but I'd rather him look good than look bad. But, Sammy, coming out of this game, I think Zach looked decent. Becton still can't make it through a whole game and play consistently. He needs to come off the field, which is a little sad to see that. But a guy you mentioned earlier, I want to hear what you have to say about Zach. I want to hear what you have to say about McDonald too, Sammy. But Izzy Abanikanda, 2 games in a row. I mean, we know he has the raw speed. People said he didn't really have the finesse, but he hit the circle button on the control and did the spin move and went right into the end zone. I mean, that's as good as it gets. I mean, I know we got Cook now, and to lend ourselves to the Michael Carter conversation, Abanikanda's not making Carter a situation easy either, because he's providing you with speed that Michael Carter doesn't have. I think Carter has the hands, probably maybe the best hands of any of these guys not named Dalvin Cook. He probably has Michael Carter. I'll give him that for sure. But what do you think, Sandy, when it comes to Abanikanda, when it comes to Wilson, when it comes to McDonald? What are your takeaways from the game?
So let's start with McDonald. That defensive line could, this whole season, if they do what they're supposed to do, could go down as like one of the greatest defensive lines ever assembled in the history.
Oh my! And
I'm throwing that out there. I'm going to throw that out there for the Jet universe to take it as they will, because you have, and it's no joke, right? You have a top 2 defensive tackle in the NFL on your team. Right?
You do.
That's not an argument. That's a fact, right? Hands down.
Yeah.
And then you've got 4 guys who probably are in the top 30 in pass rushing in the NFL easily. Not a conversation.
Yep.
How is that not, like, what can you do as an offense that's successful against that defensive line?
Well, and your middle linebacker is one of the best in the league.
I could just say to you, I'm going to put these 4 guys, they're only playing 2 plays. They're fresh every single down. Yep. So you're never getting a break. They're fresh every single play. I'm going to put 2 guys in the middle and everybody else is in man coverage. Good luck.
Did you, on Hard Knocks, did you hear about Quinnen against the defensive line? I mean, that's the part where I got so excited to know he was just feasting.
This guy, for the whole NFL world to watch him, he looks like he hit a different gear after he signed the contract. It doesn't look like he turned it down. It looked like he said, "Thanks for the money. I'm going to get 15 sacks now." Right? Like he hit the switch.
Can I ask Keith a question? Do you think that there's a potential that he could come close to Donald?
You mean getting almost 20 sacks?
Career. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Donald is just in the history of the NFL. He reminds me of this guy right here. Oh, that guy right there. Aaron Donald reminds me of him because Joe Klecko was not the biggest guy. But if you are as strong and as have that quick twitch moves and they're so instinctual like an Aaron Donald, it doesn't matter if the guys are bigger than you. He's getting underneath them every single play. Sammy will tell you. He's getting under them and pushing guys backwards. And I think Quinnen's different. Quinnen's bigger. He's almost as fast, but he's 6'3", and he's 310, 15, 20 pounds.
And he's got faster hands. You saw it in Hard Knocks. If you watched our defensive coordinator talk about it, he's like, watch Q's hands. Like, it's not even fair. The quick motion just to beat.
And Mike, I think – especially given the fact now that look what they've surrounded him with. We didn't even mention Big Al Woods. He's a run stopper, but Al Woods 350 pounds. Monstrosity in the middle.
Solomon Thomas.
So Solomon Thomas there. So when you go through the depth of the line, right? I know last year we complained about maybe Quinn didn't play as much as we want. I totally get that. I want him in there more. But Sam, we didn't even mention C.J. Mosley's a Pro Bowler. Right. So when you go through the layers of our defense, we're stacked at corner, right? We're okay at safety. We could probably improve. That's a place we can improve. Don't get me wrong. But secondary-wise, you say, well, the Jets are pretty damn good. When you look at the linebacker, C.J. Mosley is one of the best in the league. When you look at defensive line, one of the best in the league all over the place. So, I can't even wait to get this year. And I do think, Mike, to answer your question, hold on one second, I do think when it comes to Q, you just saw last year, he kind of turned it up to a new level when it comes to getting the quarterback. Because he didn't just have the 12 sacks. He also had 35 QB hits or something crazy. You know, he had as many QB hits last year as he had in his whole career. You know, so, and I see what Jerry Penegrossi just said. Let's see if they can break the sack record, the sack exchange record. If that happens, I meant to mention that, if their sack exchange level, because Gastineau is getting near 20 sacks, and then you have a Klecko guy getting near 20 sacks. That's just, what are teams going to do if we're only rushing 4 guys?
I know.
Or maybe
what are you going to do if we're only rushing 4 and our secondary is that good? Like, how are you going to score points on us?
Keith, at the end of that game,
we have an offense that's not going 3 and out, that might have a sustained 10-play, 12-play drive. Maybe only get a field goal, but we actually use 7 minutes. Instead of every time we threw this show for 4 years, I look at the stats and I go, damn, the other team had the ball for 35 minutes, and we had 25.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Ravens, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back before they had Brady. What was the recipe? It was running the ball, control the clock, and play excellent defense.
Yeah.
That, ladies and gentlemen, the Jets have that. And they got Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you saw McDonald on a 3-man front hit a spin move, beat 2 blockers, and get a sack, right? And that's our rookie we just drafted a month ago.
Yeah.
You know? In terms of Zach Wilson, you're already seeing the positive impact of Rodgers. He did that play action fake in the end zone and dropped that in the bucket in the left side by the pylon. And they did a side-by-side of him and Rodgers. It was exactly the same. Like the body language, the play action, it looked almost identical to a young AR. So you could kind of see that positive impact already with Wilson, which is a home run, you know. And then that offensive line, of course there's problems. They have everybody playing 7 different positions because they're just trying to figure it out. So all this news about like super worried about the O-line, I'm not. They're just trying everybody out at different spots to figure out what they've got and where everybody should fit. If you read the news today, they're trying a new center with Rodgers today for the first time. So they're just testing stuff out, people. So everybody's got to just chill on that O-line front. I think we'll be okay.
Bonesy, you're right. If teams are – that's why I'm so stoked. Because if you are in 3rd and long this year against us, you're in trouble. Like, we've spent – all Jet fans, anyone watching or listening right now, you know how long it's been since we actually go on the field and feel like we're going to get after a goddamn quarterback. Like, we don't even know what that feels like. We haven't had a pass rusher. We haven't had an attack since Rex. It's been 12 years. And even with Rex, if you remember, wasn't really sacks that we were great at. Creating pressure, rushing the quarterback in. Not a lot of sacks, though. This is different this year. And Mike, one thing you mentioned, that's a good point. When you go through, and I brought it up on my phone, guys, you go through the teams that have won the Super Bowl and you look at the quarterbacks. These are the names of the quarterbacks. Let's go back 20 years. Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger. Then names pop up like Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer and Joe Flacco. And the reason they're on that list is because of what Mike just said. Because there is a formula that's been effective forever and we know works. And those formulas work with average quarterbacks. If you have an elite defense and a good run game, and you have an average quarterback like Joe Flacco or Trent Dilfer or Brad Johnson, or you want to go Jeff Hostetler or even back in the day, there's plenty of them. If you have an average quarterback, you can win. We don't have an average quarterback. We have Aaron Rodgers. That's what I want to just put that in perspective. We don't have a game manager running the team with a great defense and a great running attack. It's Aaron Rodgers. So if we go down in the game, we can sling it now. So the whole perspective on everything, I think, with Jet fans has changed. And coming off this game, just a few more notes. Like we said, Izzy played great, Mike. 13 different Jets caught a ball in this game, and nobody had more than 3 targets. So you can see the approach in this game with the spreading around. Whoever was open, Zach Wilson and Boyle threw the ball to. On the Panther side of the ball, 3.4 yards a play. Their quarterbacks are getting slapped around, 2 turnovers, plenty of sacks, plenty of QB hits. So they're going to have a long year, I think. The Panthers are not going to be good, I don't think. Mike, you're muted.
Yeah, I was just telling my boy to get back outside. He came and say hi. You just got off. All right, love you.
Love you, little man.
The-
You're slowly turning him into little Texas Jet
Oh yeah,
fans.
he'll
Mike.
be ready to
Respect.
go. Bryce Young, it was funny. His first NFL experience, he really got a whole wake up call. But
Whew.
I know the narrative, guys, is the offensive line is terrible. We're going to get into that here.
Yeah.
But let me just say this, Keith and Sammy. I thought the offensive line played pretty decently against the Carolina Panthers. And one of the guys that I was very impressed with, just looking at the tape, just seeing him really quickly, was Joe Tippmann. And I'm going to tell you right now, he's starting to get first team reps. I still think that McGovern is going to start at center, but it would not surprise me if he ends up starting, either at center or at guard. Tippmann is looking much, much better. And also, the other thing I took away from an offensive line was Becton playing over 27 snaps. I was happy to see that. Unfortunately, the Jets do not yet trust him. Okay, to play, and that's why he's not gotten any first team reps, none.
Yeah,
because they don't trust him being able to play an entire game because he pulls himself out. Guys, we didn't even talk about as a rookie. He pulled himself out of games as a rookie.
A lot,
and no one talks about that. They talk about how good he was. So the whole coaching staff is like, they said exactly what you had said, Keith, a year ago when he hurt himself. He's like, we cannot depend on Mekhi Becton. So they're not. Okay. But at this point, I think it would behoove the coaching staff to start putting some Becton in there at right tackle to see what's going on, because Max is struggling a bit. Turner's struggling a bit. I know a lot of guys have been hurt, but if anything is going to derail this season, it is the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, there's no argument there. You look at the games that really good quarterbacks have when they look off, and it's just because they're getting rushed. It's just because the defensive line are crowding around. Look at the bad games Brady has or Rodgers, all these elite guys. When they're ever not in rhythm, things are off. Offenses are off. Everything's off. And if you do that to Aaron Rodgers, as good as our running backs are, as good as our receivers are, the offense is going to have a hard time. And now when you look on paper, Sammy, right now, this is the offense. As of this conversation, Sammy, this is the offensive line depth chart. Billy Turner at left tackle. Now, that could change. We know Dwayne Brown's coming back. Tomlinson at left guard. McGovern at center. A.V.G right guard. And then Max Mitchell at right tackle. That is not necessarily a championship level offensive line. Now, I know sometimes offensive lines, when they get that continuity, it doesn't really matter the name value you're looking at, or I should say the name recognition. You can have a lot of no-name guys that play great together. Don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not saying that can't happen or they can't get better. But, man, when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers back there and you spend all this money and you're so invested in the season, Sammy, when you hear things like what Mike said, which like they might try Joe Tippmann at guard, I mean, that doesn't sound too crazy to me, because I just want the best 5 guys out there. If you have to have McGovern and Tippmann out there, put them out there. I mean, you're a head coach, Sam. You coach. That's what you do on a weekly basis is coach football. When it comes to the offensive line and protecting your quarterback, there's nothing more important than that. So making sure they have the best 5 guys out there is the most important thing. If Becton's not one of those guys, it is what it is. But what do you think about Tippmann maybe moving to guard, Sammy, in this offensive line situation as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head, and you heard Saleh say it himself, right? He said it to Q, and then he said it in the room when he's yelling at the offensive line, right? We move with you guys. Offensively, we move with the line. Defensively, we move with the line, right?
Yeah.
I would love to see Tippmann out there because I think that's our best line scenario. I think he's our best option. I don't like the idea of Turner. I think Mitchell is a much better option. He showed us that he can play. He played pretty decent for us last year. Even if he can play pretty decent, I'll take that. Because then you're giving me a line that has Tippmann, McGovern, Tomlinson, and Tucker, or even Dwayne Brown out there. I think that's our best 5. If you can have Tucker on a tackle spot, I would move him out of the guard because you can make up for that guard spot with a really strong center play. Or if you have Tippmann and McGovern, now you have something to play with there. So you've got Tucker at left tackle, Tomlinson at left guard, maybe McGovern at center, Tippmann at right guard, and Dwayne Brown at right tackle. And that actually sounds like a championship level offensive line because we know what Tucker can do. We know what McGovern can do. You hope Tippmann holds up. And Dwayne Brown, he's a 38-year-old vet. He's going to do what he's got to do. So I think that's like our best case scenario if Becton's not around, right?
I didn't get the full context, guys, but today, practice 18 from Dennis Wazak Jr. So Breece Hall killed it today. That's what he's saying. He was back, superstar. Cobb killed it. Whitehead has a star. Rodgers, thumbs up, did good. Cook will wear number 33, dope. Here's what I find impressive. O-line, he's got a graph pointing upwards. They had a good practice, and guess what? Becton flashed at right tackle starting.
Okay, good.
So I don't have all the full context there, but that is from today, Keith.
Because Mike, when we look at these things and we look down and we go, okay, Billy Turner, Max Mitchell, Carter Warren, Dwayne Brown, who's good, but and then you're like, well, Mekhi Becton, we took 11th, and he's 6'7", and he's 350. Like, that's the guy we want.
Yep.
We want you to be great. We want you to be the fucking guy. Sorry, excuse my language.
Yep.
Like in my head, I'm like, and we have to treat him like a little kid because he's even though he's a giant, he hurts himself and blames the Jets and blames everyone and cries about it. And it's like you have to. And you saw Rodgers on Hard Knocks talking to Big Mekhi, saying, "Hey, let's get together next week." Rodgers is not stupid. Rodgers is saying if this kid can get healthy and be out there and has the cardio where it needs to be, he obviously is a huge help for me in keeping me upright.
That's right.
But I think, and when you talk about the offensive line schematics, like A.E.B.G did play tackle last year, and I'm not. This is kind of almost a desperation maneuver if we had to do it. If Mekhi Becton doesn't get to where we need him to be, and or Dwayne Brown isn't healthy by the time we play week 1, having AVT move to tackle, that's not going to make anyone. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is okay with that, and then maybe you have Tippmann slide into his guard spot. I'm just hypothetically throwing it out there, but I know a lot of the reports this week were that the Buccaneers were just destroying the Jets' defensive line. You don't want offensive line. You don't want to hear that. But in the game, they played okay, Mike. One guy that's out there that's rumored, and I saw that the Packers shot this down, but this is what teams always do. Teams don't ever go out and confirm they're going to trade someone. It's never happened once in the history of sports, everyone, just so you know. If there's a rumor, the team doesn't go, oh, no, yeah, we're talking about trade. It never happens, okay? So
unless it's Damian Lillard.
Yeah, right? Or Jamal Adams when the Jets were like, yeah, we want your ass out of here, right? But when David Bakhtiari from the Packers, 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, Mike, I know he has some issues there with Packers front office, his contract and things like that. I think when you look at the reports, the Jets offensive line is getting embarrassed. Now, Rodgers' responses, he's a vet. He's not going to say anything stupid. He's like, we'll be fine. It'll take time. No, he's not going to. I wonder what he's really thinking, in his mind. He knows what's up. I think Bakhtiari could help us big time. We have the money to get him. Don't know if that's a realistic option or not. I just think that if they spend another week or 10 days here, Mike, and they're still worried, and they're like, all right, we're going into that beginning of September, and they're not sure yet, and they have to make a move. I mean, you're already, all the chips are already in. And I don't even know hypothetically. It's not, linemen do not fall off teams, good ones.
Right.
They're not. It's not a position you can go just get a guy. I get it. But if there's any way to even improve incrementally at any spot, they have to explore it, Mike.
So we haven't seen Dwayne Brown yet. So understood. I agree with what you're saying. Here's why I'm skeptical of us being able to pull him. I think it makes sense actually for the Jets and for the Packers to go ahead and swap draft picks or trade Becton for Bakhtiari and whatever, because his contract is huge. And part of the reason why Aaron gave money back was to get people like him onto the team. And he's played with him and all that. And I think it would make sense for Green Bay. I think it would make sense for the Jets. I feel, and this is just me, maybe not anybody else but me, I think that Gutekunst is a prick. And I think that he's a little, I could just tell just the way he treated Rodgers and all that. Like there's that he doesn't want to give Rodgers any success at all. And he knows if he sends him over there, it could send them to the Super Bowl. And God forbid that Aaron goes to the Super Bowl with the Jets and they end up out with Love and win like 5 games. So I don't think look, that's me. It's conspiracy, whatever. I don't think they're ever going to do it.
Makes sense.
Because Gutekunst does not want to add to any success that Aaron Rodgers has in New York.
Where we're just keeping it real, that makes sense. It's not like personal feelings don't play into these things. They do. Even if you're a GM at the highest level, they play into it. And even with the Jets, I mean, Jamal Adams and Elijah Moore, like you mouth off, and Joe Douglas trades you like the next week. Like this shit, so these GMs do have feelings and emotions. I get it. I just think and this happens in our fantasy football league, Mike, sometimes people's emotions and feelings and attachment cloud their judgment when it comes to the long-term vision. If the Jets are going to give you the best deal for this guy and help your team, you should probably do it. But that Aaron Rodgers hatred, he kind of buried the Packers after he left. So I get it, man. I can see them not wanting to
gave away the $35 million, coaching up Zach Wilson, embracing all the things they wanted from him in Green Bay. He just did a silent, you know what? Yeah. You think oh my God. And he's on Hard Knocks. He's on the storyline. I mean, Packer fans are just watching the Jets like, You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you ever watch SpongeBob SquarePants and Squidward when he's looking down at SpongeBob walking. That's kind of like the Packers watching the Jets out there. Like, they're like, oh my God, that's our boy. But, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, and we got the Buccaneers coming up this weekend, guys. So there is some guys to keep an eye on in this game. I think Michael Carter is one of them. Not necessarily saying he's playing for his job. They might have their minds made up already.
Yeah.
I just am wondering how this roster is going to shake out. We're going to talk about it next week. They have we have a lot of defensive line.
I can't wait to see Sammy's 53. I want to see Keith's 53. Wook.
And guys, like we have like 10 defensive linemen, and they're probably all going to be on the team. So we don't really have a lot to cut there. It's like when you look, and I wasn't trying to, bust Bonesy's chops. He's a Michael Carter fan. He's a Jets fan. I love you, bro. It's all good. I like Michael Carter too. Go have 1,000 yards this year. I don't care. I'm just thinking, like, when I'm looking at the data and the stats, I know he had a little stretch of rookie year. He was good, but for the most part, it's been a little disappointing. That might be the guy on the chopping block. But we'll get into it next week, man. We'll talk about the rosters and everything. Jets, Buccaneers this weekend, Mike. I'll be out there. Sammy has coaching duties going on, important coaching duties with the team, so we can't make it. But I will be out there, Michael, for my first game this year, representing. Okay. I'm really excited about it. I think Kuntz, Mike, another guy to keep an eye on because Yeboah has played good. Obviously played really good last game, Kenny Yeboah. We have Uzoma. We have our boy Conklin. I mean, there's not a lot of – I know they drafted him. He's the greatest athlete of all time, Mike. He's another guy at practice. That's a perfect practice squad guy. If he was able to get through. If he was able to get through waivers, I think he's perfect. Because you could see he had a touchdown last week, but he still doesn't know what – remember when you saw in Hard Knocks, he ran the wrong route and had a touchdown. So I'm like, all right, the kid doesn't know what he's doing, but he's freaking had a touchdown. So, I don't know. He's a guy to keep an eye on too, Mike. I do, and Ruckert. No, that's what I forgot to mention. They drafted Ruckert, so it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for Kuntz to make this team. Not keeping five.
It is going to be hard. Our bad news. Our boy Dalvin Cook down on injury, son. Lost.
Oh no!
I know, our boy.
Gidgey would have been a nice death piece for the. I know Moreland played good last week, but I think Gidgey was playing pretty decent. Another guy to keep an eye on, everybody, is our draft pick, our 6th round draft pick this year, Zaire Barnes. He had 8 tackles last week, 5 tackles the week before that. He's a guy that is trying to make the team be some depth at linebacker, which we need, and he's played pretty good. So another guy to keep an eye on. There's not too many storylines going in, Mike. I don't think Rodgers is going to play. So he'll just be chilling. And no, I don't think any Jet fan cares.
I just say this. Chill. Just going real quick back to your first point with Zach.
You got
all we care about, I think, as Jet fans, we just need to know, can you be the backup? You don't have to be the second pick of the draft. You don't have to live up to anything. Just know that if Rodgers goes down, you could come in and execute the offense. And guess what? I was so happy to see young Zach just be boring. Just hit his checkdowns.
Yeah.
I was so happy. I that's all. I don't need the long, no look passes I just operate the damn offense. And he did it. He looked like a serviceable quarterback. That's all we need, Keith.
That's true, man. Like, you need what you want in your backup. Like your number one quarterback is the captain of the ship. And what you need in that backup quarterback is when the captain has to take a break, you don't take the boat over and crash it into the dock, right? You smoothly just pull the boat up nice and smooth. Don't do anything crazy. Don't mess up anything. That's all you need to do as a backup. And especially with this team, it looks like it has a lot of weapons. If you could just get the ball to the right people, I think a guy like Elijah Moore, his value and why he might have been angry is because he thought he was a lot better than he was because he wasn't getting the ball. Zach Wilson doesn't get the ball to me, blah, blah, blah. So we haven't even seen some of the full talent maybe of some of these guys, which we're going to see with Aaron Rodgers. Everyone's going to play to their full potential with him. But you just want to make sure Zach is confident. That's what we started the show with. We've talked about for months. Every Jet fan I talk to kind of says the same thing when it comes to Zach. One, do you think in a couple of years he could be the starter? That remains to be seen, guys. But two, more importantly, do you think if anything happened to Aaron Rodgers, he could help us this year and still help us win a Super Bowl? I don't know the answer to that question, guys, but I know that if he can just come in, if something happened and play a few games and play well, that's all we need from him. That's all we need from him this year. Like Mike said, you don't gotta play. No one's going, oh, this is your 3rd year. You're the 2nd pick. We want 35 touchdowns and 4,000 yards. That's not your year this year. You're chilling this year.
Heat check. Who's better, Zach Wilson or Trey Lance?
Oh boy,
Zach Wilson all day. Trey Lance is garbage.
Yeah, it's almost like
that dude's
Trey Lance is like
Trey
Lance is like incomplete. It's like when a kid misses half the school year. You kind of don't know what they really have. But this is what I'll say: if Trey Lance Purdy is what he is, and Darnold is what he is. Trey Lance is like getting buried on national television.
Dude, they put my boy out there as an audition, and he's just getting murdered. Murdered. And they're like, no, we're going to use you as trade audition, buddy, and he's getting destroyed.
They're trying to raise his trade stock, and instead it did the opposite because he just looks like. And that's the thing. A couple years ago, when we were talking about Lance and the draft and quarterbacks like him, because people look at Josh Allen and all of a sudden think that's going to happen a lot. It's not. You're not going to go to northern South Dakota State or wherever the hell they went, a school with 15 people at it, and then come into the NFL and be great. That happened with Josh Allen. It happens every once in a while with small school quarterbacks. Everybody who's a baller, all the best quarterbacks in the NFL, went to a school that were all like, oh, yeah, Texas Tech. Oh, yeah, Alabama. Like, you can go through the list. Hurts and Mahomes, all these guys, It's never Josh Allen's story. Josh Allen is the exception to the rule. So when Trey Lance came in and he went to the same school and had these great numbers, Mike, and he's putting up stats, but he's playing against the most, and he's like a man playing with children at that point. And then the NFL comes and hits you right in the mouth. The NFL is the land where if you put Kirk Cousins next to Trey Lance, you'd be like, is that guy like his driver? Right?
Yeah.
Physically. And then Kirk Cousins is a baller, though, because of what he has going on between his head, between the ears. You know what I mean?
But I'm going to tell you something, man. I think this Zach Wilson thing is so intriguing to me because if Aaron Rodgers never came and everything, he'd be out of the league in 2 years, tops. He'd be out maybe even this year, right? But he's actually getting a chance to learn. And most quarterbacks like this don't get this chance. And I feel like, Keith, that there are probably other quarterbacks that we think are scrubs, that were scrubs. But if they had been given the right opportunity to learn, they could have had an NFL career. I don't know. I can't give you an example of one, but that's why I'm looking at Zach, because he was as bad as it is. And if he can come out of this as a starter, that's a real case for when you draft a kid like him from a smaller school, a Trey Lance, a Zach Wilson, a Josh Allen. Instead of having the demand of the fan base and the demand of the franchise to start this kid right away, put him through a production plan. Actually go get yourself a veteran quarterback, commit that to that quarterback for a year or 2 years, and literally sit there and build this kid's confidence, build this kid. Patrick Mahomes got that. I know how great he is, but Patrick Mahomes, when he started, hit the ground and he was already 50 touchdowns, right?
Like Aaron Rodgers got that.
Aaron Rodgers got that. Exactly. So I'm very interested to see what happens with Zach. Again, like you said, I don't think it's going to really amount to being a starter for us, but who knows? He's got a really unique opportunity here to learn.
Yeah, I think with the teams now, because of the way that the salary cap and the pay scale is structured with the NFL draft guys, that teams now don't have the luxury. Most teams don't have the luxury of waiting a few years to see what's up. They want to maximize that rookie contract. And they're like first year, second year, you're out there. That's kind of what's changed, I think, in the NFL. The way they rule. I mean, no one used to come in, very rarely, I should say, did anyone really come in and just play right away.
Right.
It just didn't happen for the most part for the whole history of football until maybe the last decade, the last 2 or 3 years, especially though. I mean, you have the Josh Rosens of the world. You have guys coming in. Josh Rosen came in, played a season. His career was over. It's like, whoa, that's the new NFL. You played bad 1 year, you're done, and we're drafting someone else. And they got Kyler Murray. So it's like, wow, that's like, things have changed, So and players have to adjust.
Bodies are different.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. They look like they're 40 and they're 20 now too.
Yeah. Eli Manning, when he came in the NFL, go look what he looked like when he got drafted. Guys coming in now look a little different. I totally get it. And even Eli sat behind Kurt Warner for about 10 games. You guys remember his rookie year. So most of the good quarterbacks. Tom Brady sat behind Drew Bledsoe before Mo Lewis changed the course of history. Putting him out of the game right in front of me in Giant Stadium, which is just dark day in Jet history, guys. But you're right. And look, I always say this to Mike. After what I saw the first 2 years, most of the time, guys, when someone's as bad as Zach was, they don't then become a good quarterback.
Right.
And people they like to throw, oh, well, look what happened with Geno Smith. Geno wasn't good. You're right. He wasn't as bad as Zach Wilson was, but he wasn't great. And then it took him 8 years. So, that's not a good example because we want Zach to be good in a couple of years, right? So when people say Rich Gannon Rich Gannon wasn't drafted really as a starter. He just was a backup for 10 years, got a shot, and he was great. So, yeah, there's a few guys. There's other quarterbacks that started off bad and improved. Of course, guys. I'm not saying there isn't, but it doesn't happen a lot. Most guys who end up being great show you a little bit of that greatness.
Drew Brees was a good one. He was and then he went to the Saints and just became Drew Brees.
Yeah, but he's still, I mean, look at Drew Brees' number compared to Zach Wilson's.
Oh, yeah. Not even close.
I mean, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, so you're right. There's improvement. You see improvement. But that's the thing, guys. Think about it like this. If where you're improving from is the worst, you're at the lowest level. When you improve, you're still pretty damn bad. So just remember that. When everyone, I don't know why we have to eliminate logic from our minds. Most of the quarterbacks will go, oh, he improved. Yeah, Peyton Manning improved. He threw 20 interceptions and then was the best quarterback of history the rest of his career. So, yeah, bring up Peyton Manning to me. It's like, I don't get it. So we don't have to have any misguided faith in Zach, Jet fans. We have Rodgers for 2 more years. We don't have to even worry about Zach right now. And it'll be interesting to see what Zach does, and also the decision we have to make down the line. Do you pick up his 5th-year option if Rodgers doesn't come back, or do they get a veteran? Because 2 years from now, if we get this ship rolling in the right direction, because once you get to a level of success in sports, it's easy to maintain it once you finally get there.
Once you get there, yeah.
But the hard part for teams can take 60 years to get there. Patriots were the worst team ever for the history of the NFL.
That's right.
They cheated, we know, but look at them the past 20 years. So once you get there, you can maintain. If the Jets can get there, and teams go, oh, look at this great offense, look at this great defense. All they need is a quarterback. Once Aaron Rodgers isn't here, another quarterback might want to slide in and take that spot because we're more attractive than we used to be. So that's my thoughts on that, Mike. I think we covered everything. Did we not?
Yeah, we did. That was really good
this week. Cool.
That was really good.
Michael, where can people get at us and support us in any way, shape, or form when it comes to social media?
Guys, we're on YouTube, so like, subscribe. We really appreciate it. Love all the back and forth. On Facebook at AEBG.JetsRadio, on Twitter at AEBG_. Oh, actually at X, whatever the hell they're calling it, _MBJ podcast, and on Instagram at Jet.AEBG. I am kind of pissed off that they changed it to X. I don't know.
It's funny. Look, Elon Musk has more money than entire countries, so kudos to him. I'm not in a place in life where I can judge him along those lines, but I can judge you for being a giant dork who, for some reason, thinks X is cool. No one thinks that's cool. You're not. And when you're a millionaire in a room of yes men, they have to tell you it's cool. You know, everyone's like X. Why don't I just keep it as Twitter? It's the brand.
Twitter.
It's already the brand. Anyways,
I know. I don't even want to get into it, but it just annoys me when I'm on there and I see this stupid.
What do you guys think about? And you guys know I'm the biggest UFC fan in the world. What do you think about Zuckerberg and Musk possibly fighting? Who do you have taking the W? I'm going to ask you first, Sammy. Let me ask you first. Who takes the win in that one?
Listen, first of all, we all know it's Musk. He's from a foreign country, and Zuckerberg's bowl cut cannot be trusted by any human being on the planet. That man looks like only small children when their moms have to cut their head. Can't trust that man.
I'd have to admit Musk is going to take the W.
Okay, this is why, you guys, I mean, first of all, you two seem like the type of person that would see two people about to fight and just think the bigger guy's going to win. Mike, you've been in the military. You know better. You know better than that, okay? Zuckerberg, if this is to be true, because all these UFC guys have been like, fuck it, we train with the same jiu-jitsu coach. This guy's like a purple belt. He will fucking strangle Elon if they really fight. Mike, if he actually is a
fight, Zuckerberg's UFC.
So hear me out. Oh, he's at the UFCs all the time. After this conversation, if you go look, you're gonna be like, oh, Zuckerberg has spent a year only training. It's all he does. That's why he's jacked, taking pictures with fucking John.
See, I don't know
Mike,
that.
Taking pictures.
I'll change that up real quick, son. I didn't know.
He's taking pictures with John Jones in the gym. Jack, and so look, hear me out.
Bones.
That's what I'm saying. So a lot of these, just like in MMA, a lot of your credentials can be like inflated. You know, I can get into some of the stories how I got Shooter some of his MMA fights back in the day by just lying through my teeth. It's a whole nother podcast. You guys I've lived an interesting life, guys. I'll tell you that. But with Zuckerberg, maybe if he actually, my point, Mike, if he actually is a purple belt, it could be Fugazi. That could be just all nonsense, right? If this dude actually has jiu-jitsu skills, Elon Musk is just a fat bum. He's the same body type as like Donald Trump, you know? That's not necessarily, doesn't lend itself towards athletics. But you put that big belly on someone. I've seen my boy Mike Sislak, shout out, the man with the iron belly, win fights just by getting someone down and putting his big belly on them. And they can't move. You can't go nowhere. So maybe he has that move down, but I want to ask you guys if you thought because there's rumors they're gonna fight. Two of the richest guys on the planet fighting is hysterical.
It's hysterical.
I don't know
all of them and do like a cage type deal,
it's
like get Bezos
media.
in there, get Gates in there, do like a tag team steel ladders and chairs.
Gates is too old at this point. I think he's done. But I do think that like the spectacle of this, and I'm a huge boxing fan, as you guys know. I love boxing, I love UFC, and the influencer boxing's kind of become famous now. You have Jake Paul, and a lot of these guys fighting. He just fought Nate Diaz recently, guys. And the reason it's interesting is because real boxing doesn't give you that. They're not giving you storylines and fun and intrigue and interest. Where if Terrence Crawford is the greatest boxer in the world, I bet you, Mike, 99% of people wouldn't even know who he was. Pound for pound, best boxer. Just won another fight. Only guy to be undisputed champ at 2 weights. No one knows who he is. But if Zuckerberg fights Musk, everyone's in. You know, everyone's all in.
I love it, man.
Sorry, guys. I almost lost my shit right there. But hey, on behalf of the #1 Jeff in the state of Texas, Michael Garris, on behalf of the greatest high school football coach in the nation today, Samuel Hare, my name's Keith Farrell. Good action this week, everybody. Peace out.
Peace out.
Cool. I gotta start.